Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we are going to talk about farmland. We're going to talk about U.S. farmland and China and investment and numbers and statistics and acres and all kinds of things, all to determine who really owns U.S. farmland. Dun dun dun. We're going to do this because we got a message. And it's a good way to talk about one specific set of claims, and hopefully if you apply these principles, you can end up debunking a whole bunch of them on your own. Since you're going over memes, a big one around me is that China is buying up all the farmland in the U.S. and will control our food supply if there's ever a war. My uncle is convinced the Chinese are buying the land to starve us. He says they're buying millions of acres and will own us. There are tons of unsourced memes about this. What's the truth? Okay, so you have to start with the stuff that you can verify. Is China buying millions of acres of farmland, of agricultural land? No. They are buying hundreds of thousands of acres, though. So there is that. And that's normally the way I've seen this, is not with millions, but with hundreds of thousands. Okay. So, China, according to the last numbers I saw, which were last month, China owns about 400,000 acres of agricultural land in the U.S., a little less than. Okay. Raw numbers, that sounds like a whole lot, especially when it's paired on a meme with something like China owns 400,000 acres of U.S. farmland. Disney World is only 30,000 acres or something like that. That's a big difference. But Disney World is a theme park. It's not U.S. farmland. It's a dot when you're talking about the entire map. It's very much an apples to Florida oranges comparison there. So what about an apples to apples comparison? 400,000 acres, Chinese investment. Ever heard of King Ranch? If you have, and you're in the United States, you probably associate it with a truck, because on the side of some trucks it says King Ranch. Okay, King Ranch is a real place. It's a ranch in Texas. That ranch, one ranch, 825,000 acres. All of a sudden, it doesn't seem like such a big deal. 400,000 acres isn't quite as huge as it sounds. But to be honest about it, King Ranch is huge. That is not a normal ranch. It's massive. It's so big you could brand a truck with its name. So rather than looking at raw numbers, which is what a lot of memes that are fear-mongering kind of rely on, look at percentages. Look at percentages, because it gives you a much clearer picture. All foreign agricultural investment, okay, in the U.S., acres owned, about 3%, a little less than 3% of U.S. agricultural acreage is owned by foreign countries. Of that 3%, China owns 1%. 1% of 3%. They're not even a big investor when it comes to agricultural land in the U.S. They're really not. Our biggest foreign countries that invest in U.S. agricultural land, it's like Canada, the Netherlands, the U.K., France, countries like that. China isn't anywhere near the top of the list. 400,000 acres is not actually that much. And it's important to understand that they really actually didn't want all that. Most of it came to them when they bought a big pork producer, and they wound up with it. So is it real? China is buying farmland in the U.S., but not a whole lot. Certainly not enough to starve us. And then you can look at the claim in the meme itself. In the event of a war, China is going to do what with this farmland? not produce on it? Okay, give me a scenario in which the U.S. government doesn't seize it. It's not real. It's fear-mongering. It's the same stuff. This has been around. Versions of this have been around for a really long time, since the actual concern wasn't really China, but the UN was coming to, take over and all of that stuff, that theory. It's not real. It wasn't real then. It's not real now. It's just business. So while it isn't something you should particularly be worried about, just be certain that politicians are going to lean into this to scare people. We have a new, near peer contest thing, and they've got to frame it, and they've got to get that propaganda rolling. And this is a way that they will certainly try to scare Americans into thinking that 400,000 acres is like a huge deal. It's like really concerning. 1% of 3%, not a big deal. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.